Let's get to some listener communication. Before we do, I want to drop the phone number, 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubtit@dollemore.com. Let's shift into some policy analysis mode. We've been having an ongoing conversation on the program about the AR-15. We had a caller call in angry. He would not stand for the demonization of the AR-15, his favorite bowling pin target practice weapon, gun, sporting utility. And it has sparked an ongoing conversation. So let's start with a call from Randy in Indiana.
Hi, my name is Randy Caldwell from Indiana. And I watched the thing where the guy objected to your complaining about an AR-15. I recognize a lot of what he said. Those are talking points from Ted Nugent and the NRA. My little brother is a victim to listening to all that stuff, too. I know that an AR-15 is a very deadly weapon. Even though they claim it's the same as a .22 caliber, it is not. Ted Nugent would claim that a shotgun fires more bullets in one blast than an AR-15 with a 30-round magazine, which is, of course, propaganda, because a shotgun shoots at one shot. I personally have an old shotgun. I don't use it much, but it would be much better for home defense or defending my livestock against a predator or hunting than an AR-15. My big complaint with an AR-15 is, one, it is a 30-round magazine, which you can carry as many AR-15 magazines as you can put in a bag with you. And two, it is a very powerful bullet that can go through a concrete block. A .22 long rifle bullet is designed to shoot at a rabbit or a small game, but still, it is a lethal bullet. But it's not as lethal as an AR-15. A .223 or a 5.56 is a lethal weapon. That's why it has been used in the United States military for 60 years now. And it has done a very commendable job for our military. In my opinion, the military and law enforcement are the only ones who ought to have the stupid thing. But what the man was saying, who was complaining and cussing at you unnecessarily on the air, was all based on the NRA talking points and what Ted Nugent puts out there as propaganda. And Ted Nugent knows better. He's been into firearms his whole life. But a lot of these people think a gun is a toy. A gun is a tool, and it's supposed to be used for what it's supposed to be used for. In the days before I got crippled up and I used to go out, my gun was a tool to go hunting with or to keep predators out of our livestock. And luckily I've never had to, but if I had to, a shotgun is far superior for defending your home against a predator than would be an M16 or an AR-15. Because those guns are designed to shoot through walls. And that's not what I want to do. So anyway, I hope I'm not rambling on, but...
Google cut you off, Randy, before you were starting to ramble. You didn't seem like you were rambling on. Let me say this. This is an argument I'm seeing a lot in response to this on comments to the episode on YouTube, that we're now putting a lot of the episodes here that we record for the podcast on YouTube. And then, so it opens up a whole new section of dialogue and people able to talk. I'm seeing this comment a lot, even on Twitter, that it's not a deadly weapon. It's the .223, the 5.56, and they're talking about the caliber of the weapon and all this and the size of the round. If it wasn't as deadly as it is, why would the military choose to use the AR-15, which is just called the M16A2? Why would the military use it if it's just a sporting gun? It's just good for rabbits. That's nonsense. The reason the military uses it is because it delivers death and destruction at long range accurately, expeditiously. So that argument just doesn't hold water. It just does not. Unless you're going to ignore the actual history of the design and the development of the weapon by Armalite in the 50s.
Well, I appreciate Randy saying that Ted Nugent should know better.
That's wishful thinking, right?
I was surprised by that line. Well, I'm sure that Ted Nugent does know better and is intentionally spreading propaganda. But yes, I mean, Ted Nugent is a concerning person, I think. And same with Kid Rock. Kid Rock was just shooting up his Bud Light because they're all mad about Bud Light now because of the trans endorsement, or I'm not sure totally what's happening there, but they're shooting up their Bud Light and throwing it in the garbage and filming themselves doing it.
It's the new Kaepernick jersey.
Yeah.
I saw one like TikTok or something. Somebody did a mega thread of all these jackasses. And the guy went from like out to his shed and emptied his fridge and like dumped the beer in the trash, and then went to his like the beer fridge in the garage and dumped all the beer into the just what are you doing, dude? Just don't buy any more.
Yeah.
Drink what you got if that's the beer you like. And then don't buy any more.
They got to make content.
It turns all of these idiots into content creators.
Yeah. They need some content. That's it.
Just nonsense. Anyway, thank you, Randy, for the call.
Yes.
I believe this is on the same issue, is it not? The next call?
Hey, Jesse and Brittany. This is Josh. In regards to the guy calling about defense of the AR-15, the argument for it being a home defense weapon is not a good one, in my opinion. First off, like how much you have to be well trained and constantly trained to be able to use it properly and with accuracy. And I'm guessing that guy doesn't do that. And even if he did, doesn't necessarily matter. It's not really good for home defense also because of the how loud it can be and disorienting for the person doing the shooting, especially if you're doing it from wake. You're not going to be accurate. You're not going to be at your best, again, unless you're trained. And the other thing to consider is, we had to do a lot of training in the military, so that's that's a thing that has to happen for it to be any good, to compensate for any sort of adrenaline and other stuff like that, too. That's why we have the box drills and all that other stuff. But the other thing is that, it's overpowered for that need. And while I've heard various arguments and seen various arguments about over-penetration bullshit or not bullshit, doesn't matter. It's too powerful for that need. And even if it's not too powerful, if you have kids, it's not a good idea, because for you to be able to get it quickly, it has to be able to be gotten quickly. And likely that means not being in a safe. So it's like one or the other. So I think I've heard either one or you or Brittany both make that argument. And so that's a bad argument. It doesn't work. It's just not feasible. So anyway, love the show. Brittany's the best part. Y'all have a good day. Bye.
Love the show. Brittany's the best part. Bye.
The interesting thing is kind of a play off of what your take is. It's not a play off. I'm just going to repeat the thing you say, is that all these conservatives oftentimes, they want to look at themselves as Jason Bourne, as some superhero, CIA operative. And it's the same with these types who want to use the AR-15, and they talk about home defense, and they envision themselves, they fantasize themselves as an urban combat, door to door, kicking in doors and engaging the enemy and clearing the room, and they have a team behind them. That's not what's going to happen in a home invasion type of situation where they're defending their home. You're going to be in the middle of the night, likely. You're going to come down the stairs, and you're not going to be able to aim accurately in the dark in your home. If you're talking about home defense, a shotgun is by far a more useful weapon in this scenario, because you just generally aim where you want to fire, you slap the trigger, and then your target is neutralized. Or you could use a smaller gauge shotgun and hurt, maim, wound, and not kill, and scare them away. an AR-15 is for a proficient user of the weapon, which is what Josh was getting to there. And your fantasies notwithstanding, it's not the weapon to use for home defense.
Well, it's funny that you brought up my Jason Bourne line because that's what my response is to
I
this.
love it.
It's what my response is to this voicemail because I've been noticing a pivot online from people acting like they would be Jason Bourne in these situations, acting like them having a gun during a mass shooting would then allow them to neutralize the target immediately and take care of the threat, whatever. I'm noticing a pivot from believing they're Jason Bourne to now saying that the presence of a gun would give them the chance. It would give them an opportunity, a possibility of surviving and a chance to take out the shooter. So now they're like acknowledging, okay, it's not super realistic that I'm Jason Bourne, and I'm probably not going to be able to act in the way that I would in my head.
Yeah.
But it would just give me the chance to do that. The possibility exists.
Well, the moving of the goalpost is such a classic Republican conservative talk. I mean, that's the way they deal with everything. It's, this argument is now falling apart. It's crumbling before my very eyes. Oh, let's move the goalpost, and then I'll use this as an argument. And that's what you're seeing there, is people realize that even trained, hardened, steely-eyed cops in Uvalde were standing around sanitizing their hands in the hallway and not protecting the children they were there to actually protect.
Yeah.
If you think you're going to be some Jason Bourne type, when you have zero training, zero acumen in this area, you are fooling yourselves, and the rest of us are laughing at you while you fool yourself.
It would be great to be Jason Bourne, though. Fantastic. I would love it.
I would not. You're on the run all the time. There's no, let's just go out to dinner tonight. No, you got to be watching over your shoulder. Well, what a miserable life.
You get to take a book off the shelf, punch someone through a book. Great move. Standout scene. Love it.
I will say that series holds up. And the sequels, from a sequel perspective, most movies they like the Fast and the Furious. I haven't seen any of those movies, but I'm assuming none of them hold up because the first one just seemed like trash too. Now I'm way out of my element. But sequels, they diminish in return over time.
Is that a tattoo I see peeking out? What does that say? Fast 5, Fast 10? What is that?
Yeah, I got the whole cast in photograph tattoos on my back.
Yeah, there's
Vin Diesel first prominently displayed.
There's a saying from the movie about family that...
Isn't that kind of a running theme?
There's some sort of saying in the movie, I think, and I was going to reference in my tattoo joke, which didn't go over super well. Okay, so we are going to now read an email about the same topic, guns. This really lit a fire under everyone, and we got a lot of listener communication about it. So this is an email.
Good. We want to hear from everybody.
Yeah. Greetings. I hope you are well. Hopefully I can keep this succinct for us both. I know that firearms are a very knee-jerk topic, and people have a tendency to react in lieu of listening and considering first to the misfortune of us all. America has a massive and very real problem with violence. At the moment, it's gun violence. I know a lot of people want to eliminate guns from the equation. I don't have an opinion about that in particular, and no identity or emotional attachment that colors my relationship with weapons. They exist, and so do wrenches and toasters. But what I don't seem to hear from anyone is what comes next if the guns go away but the violence doesn't. After all, it is the violence that we actually want to eliminate, right? As an analogy, if you love apple pies and you want to lose weight, would eliminating apples cause you to lose weight? Maybe you actually just love eating pies and you just switch to pecan pies and gain weight rather than losing it. Ironically, the apple part of the pie may have been the healthiest part. My worry is that after we eliminate guns, if we don't do anything to address the circumstances that result in gun violence, we'll just switch to pecan violence or bombs. As I understand it, homemade bombs are easier to make than homemade guns, and as a bonus, you don't need to be on site, line of sight, or vulnerable to arrest or neutralization when they do their thing. I've seen the aftermath of bombings. If I was going to be present for somebody's act of violence, I think I'd rather take my chances with them carrying a gun rather than planting bombs. Okay, I think you get the picture. I want to start having conversations about how to solve the types of illness or desperation that leads to violence in parallel to the conversations about one particular kind of violence. Thanks. Shovel.
Well, listen, shovel, is that the...
Yeah.
Okay. Shovel. Great. Listen, there's a lot of flawed logic here. And I think you're falling victim to the same traps that Republicans would like you to fall into, considering that maybe you're a conservative or not. I don't know, like, whatever. You weird line there that there also wrenches and toasters exist. Your analogy falls apart because, one, violence exists all over the world. People are violent in Europe, but there's not the mass shootings that you see here. And as far as the wrenches and toasters is concerned, the last time I checked, which was just moments ago while Brittany was reading the email, the Las Vegas shooter who killed 60 people didn't use a toaster or a wrench. They used an AR-15 style weapon. Uvalde, where many children died, it wasn't a wrench, it wasn't a knife, it wasn't a handgun. It was a high-powered rifle. Parkland, the same thing. Newtown, Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 27 or 29, like nearly 30 human beings died, many of them children. It wasn't a knife. It was an AR-15 style assault rifle. So that is the common theme and the common thread here. And the fact that people are violent in America, they're violent in Australia too, but they don't have these types of events on any kind of regular basis.
Yeah, listen, I love analogies when they involve food. It really is nice, but it did fall apart completely. And it's typical Republican conservative logic that we hear all the time, which is if we're not going to be able to eliminate the problem of gun violence, then why would we take any kind of incremental action at all, right? That's kind of what they do. They put the goal over here. Elimination is the goal. And listen, we're never going to be able to completely eliminate it. So why would we take any steps at all?
Why try at all?
And that's really not reasonable. And so we are talking about mitigating the risks and trying to reduce the number of gun deaths. And for that, we can look to our counterparts across the world and see that those countries that have taken action on guns have been able to reduce the incident of gun violence in their countries because they have made the guns less accessible. So we have examples where it works in other countries. We just have not implemented that here. Now, our people... once they don't have a gun, are they going to be so insistent on committing an act of violence that they then go and build a bomb?
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. But I think what this person is missing is that we actually are having the conversation at the same time of how to reduce violence. And you actually saw this in the mayoral race in Chicago, where the progressive just won over the conservative. They call him a moderate, but he's conservative. And Johnson is the one who won, Mayor-elect Johnson in Chicago. The progressive was talking about the roots of crime. And the other guy, the conservative, was like the quote unquote tough on crime guy who wants to, funnel more money toward the police and was using a lot of buzzwords surrounding that. And the polling suggests that it was popular for the progressive candidate to focus on the underlying root causes of crime.
Yeah.
And we talk about that a lot on this show. Things like investing in community health and alleviating poverty. All of those things are going to reduce the risk, reduce the participation in acts of violence. So we may not have specifically had that conversation during our AR-15 discussion on the previous episode, but it is very hard when you're having a conversation unless we have a list of variables here that we're ticking every subject possible off. We can't get to everything all at once. But I do believe that we have that conversation a lot about what is it going to take? What are the investments we need to make in our society in order to reduce the incidence of violence.
Yeah, two things. One, I want to talk about the bomb thing, but I'm going to come back to that since you just mentioned this investment thing. And we are such a fast food culture. We want answers now, solutions right now. And our problems are so endemic that it's going to take, I wouldn't say generational investment, but it's going to be years down the line. We need to start investing in pre-K now so the children, when they become of age to be interested or possibly sucked in by gun culture, aren't as interested because we've invested in STEM and these other educational opportunities for them. But going back to the gun thing, to the emailer's point, I don't know where you get that making a bomb is so simple and so accessible that if we take away guns, then all of a sudden bombs are the answer, because that's not what's playing out all across the world where guns aren't as readily available.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We thank you all for your participation in this. We get a lot of voicemails, we get a lot of emails, and we would love to hear from you. We could feature your opinion, your question, your comment on the show. 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com.